Can Hyundai's new luxury division, Genesis, repeat its magic from the G80 and G90 sedans in a smaller, less expensive package with the all-new G70? Well, after 3 days behind the wheel, the answer is yes. The G70 holds up on the driving front, but like with the G80 and G90, the real magic comes beyond that. So let's start with those driving aspects. The G70 comes with a 4-cylinder or a V6 engine, both turbocharged. There's automatic transmissions across the board, but with the 4-cylinder, you can get an optional 6-speed manual. There's rear-wheel drive, there's all-wheel drive. We drove a whole bunch of those combinations in the hills of southern Maine, as well as at Club Motorsports. That's a racetrack, 2.5 miles, 15 turns, 250 feet of elevation change in central New Hampshire. We also drove several versions of the G70 at an autocross course next to the racetrack. So lots of experience in the car, and I gotta say, it's not the most fun to drive car in the class, but certainly holds its own. A little bit lazier steering turn-in, a little more body roll than maybe some competitors like the Jaguar XE, the Alfa Romeo Giulia, but certainly still within the realm of fun to drive. Fairly neutral chassis dynamics as you get into corners, big sweeping corners, a little bit of understeer coming in, but then it kind of maneuvers. You can sneak the tail around a little bit if you want. It's fairly predictable. Very good brakes. There's optional Brembo brakes on the G70s that we drove at the track. I took them through 10 laps. Still held up even on the 10th lap, not too much brake fade, and the car's very, very composed, bombing down the straightaways at 100 miles an hour. Doesn't feel skittish, doesn't feel like the tail's gonna kind of want to move around on you, even coming in, braking in a straight line. All very, very good stuff. Shows a lot of care went into chassis engineering for this vehicle. Now, you get on public roads, there's 3 suspension setups. There's 2 fixed suspensions, fixed rate shock absorbers. There's adaptive shock absorbers that are optional. The base suspension is comfort tuned sort of, and then there's a sport tuned version. Now, we've driven 2 of those 3, kind of the base 2 versions, not the adaptive setup yet. And the G70 is firm, certainly, but comfortably so. It's, again, fairly controlled, doesn't really beat you up, doesn't feel too choppy even over broken pavement. Now, about those drivetrains, the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder has decent power, good building kind of sensation as you get past 3,000 RPM all the way up to redline. Really, I don't see why anyone would need the bigger engine, but some of you are going to want it, and it's got just explosive power regardless of RPM. Genesis says it hits 60 miles an hour in just 4.5 seconds. That's competitive with cars like the Audi S4, the BMW 340i, the Mercedes C43, the AMG version. And just lots and lots of power. We were going uphill with 2 adults aboard and gearing back at like 1800 RPM. Now, the V6 comes with an 8-speed automatic standard that's available on the 4-cylinder. You can also get a manual. The automatic is a really, really good transmission, and I don't say that about a lot of 8-speed automatics. Upshifts very seamlessly, smoothly. You often don't even know that it's upshifting, but then when you need more power, dig into the gas just a little bit. It kicks down 1-2 gears really, really quick. It doesn't delay. A very, very nice, decisive transmission. Probably better of a choice than the manual. Now, I like the fact that they're offering a manual transmission on the G70. That's nice to have in a sports sedan because a lot of sports sedans are just doing away with manuals altogether. But the 6-speed manual is just not the most well-executed transmission. Kind of loose, clunky shifter here, big long gates. Just doesn't feel all that engaging. It is nice though that throttle response is very good. That's really important for rev matching if you want to drive a manual properly. But like I said before, the G70's real appeal comes beyond the driving aspects. Now, interior quality, pretty competitive for the segment, I gotta say. A nice detailing on things like the center console, where sections that face the driver have this sort of low gloss wrapping on them. A very good level of attention to detail, a lot like we see from Audi. Along the center portion of the dash, there's a vinyl wrapping with stitching. That's standard. That's not optional. You don't have to pay extra to get some kind of interior upgrades package to get it. That's nice to see. Also standard, lots and lots of practicality here. There's an 8-inch touchscreen. There's no, stuff you have to do here with a knob or a touchpad to use it. You just reach up and do your thing. It has standard Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, HD radio. There's physical volume and tuning knobs, lots of shortcut keys here, big knobs here for your climate controls. Very, very easy to use. Lots of storage space too. There's this generous cubby here ahead of the gear shift. Underneath the center armrest here in automatic transmission cars, there's enough space even for a 16-ounce water bottle. Overhead, you've got a sunglass holder. I mean, any non-luxury car owner is going to think, well, what's the big deal? You get into a lot of luxury cars and they just drop the ball on stuff like this in the name of luxury for some reason. I really like that the G70 didn't overthink it. Now, in terms of backseat space, a little bit on the tight side there. If you're looking for that, cars like the Audi A4 have a lot more of it than the G70 do. And I'm 6 feet tall. I do wish there was a little bit more width here to kind of spread out my knees, but lots and lots of adjustment range for the driver's seat. Where I sit to drive, I'm about 4 inches ahead of all the way back. Now, when the G70 goes on sale at the end of the current season, that's summer of 2018, it'll start around $35,000. A pretty decent value when you consider that that big multimedia system and a full suite of safety features are all standard. It'll top out around $50,000, we're told. Again, a decent value when you consider that many of the G70's German competitors go well north of that mark once you add the bells and whistles. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. Genesis, an untested luxury brand, maybe you'd rather stick with Lexus or Mercedes-Benz or BMW, especially since a lot of these G70s, at least initially, are basically going to be sold out of the back of Hyundai dealerships with maybe some differentiation, showroom type stuff going on, but can't hide the fact that it's still at a big Hyundai store. I gotta say though, you gotta get over that because the G70 is a very well-rounded entry in a very competitive class, definitely worth adding to your list.